Hi, it's me, it's Deborah from Crafting a Calmer Self. I think I have some yarn on myself. Welcome. We're people who are artists or crafty or doing all these things are always covered in paint, yarn, fabric, marker, you name it. It's part of the process. So welcome. Today I got kind of a messy project, which is appropriate. I'm going to do a little intro to pour painting. What does that mean? It means kind of what it sounds like. You're going to pour some paint. You're going to pour some paint onto some canvas, and anybody can do this. I recently did this with some students on pieces of wood to make some wood ornaments, and it's a great way to make melted snowmen. Where you're working with just white paint and kind of just moving your canvas, or our canvas was a piece of a block of wood. So you can buy pour paints, or pouring acrylic paint, I think is the actual term. And you can also, I'm sure YouTube has lots of tutorials on how to make them. They're a little bit thinner, and I think you could probably use a nice thin craft paint that you pretty much get in any arts and crafts store. The idea is with your pouring paints, these are going to kind of spread nice and evenly, and they'll dry nice and evenly without like kind of cracking. I know sometimes some paints, when you put too much on it, they kind of crack. So we're going to kind of create a background, and we're going to also be working with a mini canvas, which I love. And you can also get these mini canvases in dollar stores. Um, so these are some mini canvases that I had gotten um, through some kind of, a craft a day type of box. And I'm going to use these. Usually in dollar stores, they'll have rectangular ones or square ones, which are really awesome. And you don't have to do this on mini canvas. You could do this on big canvas. Or even I think a canvas board would work well. But the nice thing about this kind of stretched canvas boards is they're a little bit thicker for you to handle. And that's what we're kind of doing. So we're getting a nice sensory experience, getting that body loosey-goosey, which is what we all kind of need. So especially as we're going into a new year and all this stuff. So I'm getting ready. I'm dun, 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 shaking my pouring paints or my pour paints. So I've got some nice white that I'm going to work with a little bit. I'm going to work with some nice silver, and I'm going to work with some blue. I'm also going to work with some really cool glitter that I received. And I usually don't work with glitter. People that know me, a lot of my students, they know I'm not a big glitter fan because it just gets everywhere. And wherever you go, it's on your face, and you're talking to people, you're at a store, and they're kind of like, you got some glitter on your face. And I don't know, woman my age, I don't know if she should be wearing a lot of glitter on her face. So I'm also going to be having a little bit of some glue, clear dry glue that I can paint and apply a little bit of glitter in it. I'm also going to be working with, I'm going to try a little bit of black paper. I don't know how well that's going to go, so you may want to later on do this last step. We're going to make kind of like a doorway, a galaxy doorway. And I always like to work with mixed media if I can. So I'm not sure how well it's going to dry, so I'm going to see. But you can also do this if you don't have black paper. You can also do it with black paint once your poured paints are all dry. So you're also going to want a scissor too. I'm going to use a paintbrush. I'm going to keep it on hand in case I need to use my glue. I may not have to, so that I can apply some of the glue in specific places for my glitter. And I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to try it because that's really what I think a lot of times art is fun. That is, you're learning a new skill. You are just experimenting. And that's what we're doing today. This is an experiment. So I'm going to make kind of a funky galaxy doorway painting, or if you don't want to do the doorway, just a galaxy. And we're going to be working with some pouring paints. And it's such a warm day for New Jersey, because that's where I'm out of, that I'm in my coop. And usually my coop is a little too chilly for the winter, but I said, hey, I'm going to take advantage. I got this beautiful sunlight pouring in, so I'm going to use it. So let's get ready. You're going to want some type of paper towel, a paper plate, newspaper, tablecloth in your work area where you're going to be pouring, so it doesn't get on your table. As I've said many times, I really don't care, but you may. So the first color I'm going to work with is I'm going to work with my dark color. I'm going to go with my dark color, and I'm going to add some of the lighter colors on top of that. So my base or my background is going to be this dark color. You can use whatever you want. I'm going to be using a dark blue because that's kind of what I got out of these. It was an advent calendar, so I'm going to try this. So when you're working with these paints, make sure you shake them up. Okay. And they recommend to pour it in a cup and do that on a bigger canvas. But I have such a teeny tiny canvas and I'm working with a little triangle. I'm just going to kind of pour it on its own. And that would help if I took actually, because I think this is the first time I'm using this one. I'm going to take the cap off. Gee, get a little bit prepared, Deborah, before we start. This is when I need an editor. All righty. So we're just going to pour. Okay, I'm just going to pour. I'm not going to go nuts. I'm not going to go nuts. I'm going to see what I get. I'm going to see what I get. So I'm going to start to add some of the blue to my background. Okay, now you can also, if you wanted, you already had a painted background, you can paint the background in a different color or pour it with like a black or something like that, or a really dark blue or purple. But I'm just kind of getting what I'm getting, just whatever shade. And I'm going to see if I want to add a little bit more, cover up some spaces. As I said, usually when you see people doing the pour paints, they have these wonderful cups or buckets on strings, and they're kind of just pouring it all over. I kind of dig when I kind of make this kind of weird experience where I'm just kind of moving it wherever. Okay, so that's how I'm starting, and I'm going to keep on adding things to it. So I'm going to add some silver to my piece here. Okay, like I said, and if you're using craft paints, you can also use a brush. There's nothing wrong saying you can't use a brush. So I'm just kind of pouring around, and I'm just adding some blobs. And sometimes just the blobs coming in and out are kind of funky and cool. So I'm just kind of moving around. I'm just seeing what I'm getting. I'm just seeing what I'm getting. And I'm just going for it. And these are really kind of process types of stuff. And if it's going over the edge, that's okay. That's okay. Let it kind of do its thing. That's why we want something there. Okay. Then I think I'm going to add, I want a little something to go over here. Yeah, go that way. Let's see where you're going. Where do you want to be? I don't know. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of white as well, and then I'm going to layer some more of the other colors. So I know I have a white canvas, so I'm using just a little bit of white to lighten up the blue, just to lighten up the blue. You can leave it that way. You can leave it as your dots, or you can just kind of move them around. See where they're going. See where they're going. We can also play around with using a stick. And I just love how these things move around. Don't worry about your edges. We're going to cover those eventually too. We're not going to worry about those. Okay, so we're just kind of getting this kind of funky kind of design, and we're going to play around with that. Okay, So there we are. I'm going to let that sit, see where the paint kind of goes. Paper towels are really good when you have a poor paint. Just saying. I'm always very messy. That's fun. Okay. So far, I'm kind of getting a really weird and funky design. Some of you say, hey, Deborah, maybe we want it a little bit darker. You're saying it's kind of a galaxy. And I'm like, yeah, you might be right. I don't know. I don't know what, there's an absence. So I'm going to add a little bit of dots coming in. I'm just going to kind of add these dots and see where they go. Maybe they go around the edges. Look at that. Look how funky that is. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of move it around a little bit more. And I'm just kind of just letting the paint go where it wants to go, working wherever. And what's kind of cool about this is it's always moving. It's always moving if you're kind of letting gravity do its thing. And you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get. Now we're getting some like really cool swirl things going on. I think I want to add a little bit more blue over here. So maybe I'll add a little bit more blue to the edge here. Okay. Just adding it where I think, just letting it go, I know some of my students are like, oh, I like things to look a very specific way. I like to know what I'm working with, where I'm ending up. I get that. Maybe you might want to add a little bit more silver, maybe little itty bitty dots. I love blue and silver, nice wintry kind of effects. Just kind of letting them go. If you have a thin stick, you can also sometimes, I don't always like to do this, you want to move it around, make your shapes, kind of swerve them in. I always like to make sure my end afterwards if I don't want to mix the colors too much. But you can kind of also blend and push the paint, but make sure I like to get my lines. You can really do some kind of funky things, but I like to wipe my brush each time afterwards. Okay, so if you've got your brush, you want to do that, you can move it around. You could sit there for a long time and do that if you like. Let's see, what colors should we add? Should we add a little bit more blue? Should we add a little bit more white? I don't know. I mean, I think it's coming along pretty cool. And when I lift it, so you got to be careful when you lift it and you're holding it up, that's going to move all your paint in different directions and different places. So you don't know where you're going. See, it's kind of funky to watch. It's all moving. So I'm changing my design as I go. I think I'm going to add a little bit more blue and a little bit more silver. Don't want a lot of white. I want this kind of really dark. But I like to add a little bit of the white and the silver to lighten it up so it's not so heavy. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this kind of midnight blue. I'm just making sure all my canvas is kind of covered. I know I'm making such a mess. That's what's fun. I just went over some of the designs that I just did, and I think I'm going to add a little bit more of my silver around, getting kind of some funky stuff. Maybe I lied. Maybe I'll add just an itty bitty white, just a little bit. Maybe just a little bit. That would be nice if it just stayed in that shape. You can move it around by turning it, or once again, as we said, if you want to take your brush, you can use a pencil. Pencil, you might get the lead in, so you might want to be quiet. Be careful with that. Any type of thin type of pointy type of tool that you might want to use. So I'm moving these around, kind of wiping it, because I want to make sure that I'm not getting too much mixture. I'm not doing this to mix. I'm doing this to kind of drag some paint around, drag it around. And some of you can see that, like if we went and we just kind of did that marbleizing, you can do that too if you really dig that. Just see where it takes you. But I like to clean my end a little bit. Just go for it. See what you're gonna get. And that, I think, really is quite beautiful. And I left that one little dot. I did. I left that one little dot. I don't know. I don't know what the top is or the bottom is. That's up to you. That's up to you. That when I've done this type of exercise with students, they're like, "What's the top? What's the bottom?" I said, "I don't know." When you're done, you might want to hold it up and start looking at it and say, "What does that look like?" You know, kind of a Rorschach type of thing. So I'm going to add some additional things to this. So I'm going to replace my very messy paint pour rag that I had before, and I'm going to put it on a cleaner piece so you can see what we're dealing with. So here we are. This is what we've got, okay? That's what we've got. This is going to take a long time to dry, so don't worry. I'm holding it the way as a person would be looking. Maybe you would see this from top to bottom. I don't know. You could tell me if I'm holding it the wrong way. So I wanted to add a little bit of some cool accents. I have these materials. I don't know what to do with them. So I'm going to add a little bit of glitter to the edges. And I'm going to add a little bit of a doorway. Because the paint is so wet, and I find when I work with acrylics, I can do this with certain papers. I can just stick the paper and it just stays. Some people are like, that's terrible. I find it a really easy way to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a rectangle, like, 2001 Space Odyssey. I think I'm going to call it more of a door. And I'm going to be very careful as I cut this out. And I'm going to cut out, as best I can, a nice straight strip of black paper. And drop it. Thank goodness it wasn't the paint. Or that would have been a bummer. And I'm going to bring this paint, I'm going to place it on top. Now, I don't want it to take, for some of you, maybe you want it to cover the whole thing. It could be thicker, it could be thinner. I want it to be a little bit shorter, definitely a little bit shorter, okay? All right, so I'm thinking that's my doorway. That's my doorway. And very carefully, I'm going to come to where the space that I want it. I want it right in the middle. And I'm going to kind of just drop it in. Look how nice and easy that kind of falls. And I'm just going to kind of tap. And I'm going to let that kind of fall in. Let that fall in. The construction paper probably will curve. I can kind of play around with that later on, but I'm just going to kind of let that, it's a kind of a nice little dimensional thing there. I'm just going to kind of let that fall in. I'm going to press that in. I'm just going to kind of let that in later on if I want to come on with some Mod Podge or something. So I get those ends kind of tapped in. This is good where you maybe want a pencil point, very thin, narrow paintbrush. Just try not to get any paint on that. Okay, here we are. Okay, and there I've got this kind of funky doorway. You don't have to do the doorway. You can just leave it plain. You can just leave it plain. The next step that I want to do is I want to add, like I said, I got this awesome glitter. This is from some company, and it's got little stars and things. So I'm going to take a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of just pour that onto the paint. My paint is very wet, so I think I'm pretty good. I don't think I need any like glue or anything. It should just stick right in there. Just sticking that in, just kind of, just gentle with my fingers. I'm definitely going to have lots of glitter with me. I guess it's good. It's New Year's. If I want a little bit on the, if I want a little bit on the door, I can add a little bit of glue to it and sprinkle it on the door. No, I don't know if I really want it on my door. I don't know if that's what I really want. I don't even know if I still want my door. And I think, but I'm going to add a little bit more, maybe to the top. Definitely along the edges. I kind of like that vibe, right? It's a word I use a lot. What's your art vibe? Okay, just kind of adding that where it feels good to you. Yeah, look at that. That's sticking in there. Key is, when to stop. That's really the key, and that's always hard. And when is a painting finished? Okay, there we go. Kind of want to leave it more around the edges versus in the center. But maybe somebody that really digs it all the way around. Okay, let's pull that up. And there is your Pour Paint Galaxy doorway. And when it's dry, give it a good number of hours. You can go. Same dollar stores sell these little stands for your Galaxy paintings, any of your paintings, and you can nicely put them on there. And you've got kind of a funky new age doorway for you to kind of look and maybe put it in your meditation area or somewhere kind of funky and cool for you. So I hope you had a little bit of fun with your pour paints, and I will see you next time. Remember, every day is an adventure. Pick which adventure you want to take today. Today was a little bit of art, pouring paints, and glitter that I'm probably going to be carrying around for a few days. So have a good one. Bye-bye.